All right, let's dive in. Today we're talking about the wild, chaotic, and completely transformed world of film and TV. Because right now, in 2026, the old rules of Hollywood, they just don't apply anymore. There's a massive global shakeup happening, and we're right in the middle of it.
So, the big question is this the year? The year that's going to define the next century of storytelling? The industry is at this crazy tipping point, right? You've got consolidation, mind-blowing new tech, and a global marketplace that's creating a totally new world order. So, yeah, let's find out.
To really get our heads around this shift, we've got to start by looking at the business of making movies. And we'll begin with the major studios, because, well, they've evolved into something their founders would barely even recognize.
See, for decades, the old studio system was like this perfect, well-oiled assembly line for movies. They owned everything, the actors, the directors, even the movie theaters. But then a Supreme Court ruling came along and blew that whole model up. And in the decades since, studios got snapped up by these massive parent companies. So now, a film studio doesn't just make a movie, it creates intellectual property, or IP. That's the real product. It's something that can be spun off into theme park rides, toys, and a dozen streaming shows.
And this change represents a totally different way of thinking. I mean, we've gone from an industry that ran on the gut instincts of studio moguls to one that is driven by spreadsheets and data. It's not about these self-contained empires anymore. It's about leveraging a single piece of IP across a vast, sprawling conglomerate.
So, okay, that's the view from 30,000 feet, from inside the giant corporations. But what if you're an independent creator? Well, you're not even playing the same sport. For you, financing a film isn't about feeding some giant machine. It's about trying to build one from scratch.
The budget for a modern indie film is less like a buffet and more like a tasting menu. It's this carefully pieced together mix of different money sources. We call this the capital stack. Now, private equity is still the biggest slice of the pie. But look at that next piece, tax incentives. They are an absolutely crucial part of the puzzle now. And this changes not just how movies get funded, but where they get made.
And that question of where is our next big topic, because this heavy reliance on incentives has kicked off this fierce global competition. You could call it the Great Money Migration. The funding is moving, and productions are chasing it all over the world.
Let's look at a few examples just to see how this plays out. In the US, the state of Illinois has basically supercharged its tax credit, starting with a base rate of 35%. But what makes it so attractive are these stackable bonuses. If you hit certain goals, like hiring a lot of local workers, that credit can jump to over 50%. That's a huge boost for the local economy and a massive draw for any production.
Meanwhile, if you hop across the pond, the United Kingdom is going all in on high-tech post-production. They're offering a 39% credit specifically for visual effects work. And here's the kicker. There is no cap on how much you can spend. So for a blockbuster film with hundreds of millions of dollars in VFX, that is a gigantic, almost irresistible draw.
And it's not just the usual suspects. Qatar has jumped into the race with a 40% cash rebate. That's a huge, clear signal that they want to become a major production hub in the Middle East. They're trying to attract international talent and build a whole new industry from the ground up.
So let's just pause here for a second. The crucial thing to understand is that these aren't just random numbers, they are highly strategic moves. Each place is tailoring its offer. Illinois wants to attract the entire production. The UK and Ireland are carving out a niche as the go-to spot for VFX. And Qatar is using its cash to build a local industry. It's basically a global chess match for billions of dollars in production spending.
But it's not just money that's reshaping the industry. It's technology, specifically artificial intelligence. AI has officially moved out of the realm of science fiction and into the edit bay. It's a powerful tool being used right now.
And if you need any proof of just how seriously the big players are taking this, look no further than Disney. $1 billion investment in OpenAI? That's not just a splashy headline. It's a declaration. It's Disney saying AI is now a core part of their content creation pipeline. Period.
One of the most game-changing tools is something called visual ADR. Now, you know how for decades, if you needed to change a line of dialogue after filming, you had to cut to a shot of the back of the actor's head or to someone else reacting? That was to hide the fact that their lips weren't matching the new words. Well, with this AI, you can seamlessly change the dialogue while staying right on the actor's incredible performance. It's a subtle tweak with massive creative implications.
This kind of tech creates a much more fluid, creative workflow. Editors can just sketch out ideas with different lines. Directors can see the results almost instantly, and the whole process becomes way more collaborative and iterative.
It gives filmmakers this incredible freedom to experiment and find that perfect moment long after they've left the set.
And this quote right here from Eric Wilson at Flawless just brilliantly sums up a key theme we're seeing everywhere. This isn't about replacing the artist. It's about adding a new tool to their toolkit. It's about addition, not substitution. Remember that phrase.
That idea of addition is actually the perfect way to talk about our final section, because we need to look beyond the traditional filmmaking centers to an industry that has built its own incredibly powerful ecosystem from the ground up, Nigeria's Nollywood.
You know, Nollywood is so fascinating because it's packed with these contradictions. On the one hand, it's celebrated all over the world for its authentic Africanity. It connects the diaspora, it inspires a whole new generation of filmmakers, and it often does it through this groundbreaking direct-to-video model that just bypasses the old gatekeepers entirely. But at the very same time, it's often criticized by intellectual elites who sometimes see it as projecting negative stereotypes or focusing on repellent subjects.
But for the audience, man, the impact is just undeniable. This quote from a fan in Barbados says everything. Nollywood offers a vision of what some call Afro-modernity that completely challenges the simplistic and often negative images of Africa that have dominated Western media for a century. It shows a different, more complex reality, and that is just incredibly powerful.
So, where does all this leave us? We've seen business models splintering, money migrating across the globe, a technological revolution in the edit bay, and the incredible rise of entirely new filmmaking hubs.
Which brings us right back to our central theme. That phrase, right? What we're witnessing here is not the death of an old industry, but the massive expansion of it. Streamers are an addition to theaters. Global incentives are an addition to traditional funding. AI is an addition to the artist's toolkit. And Nollywood is a powerful, vital addition to global cinema.
So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that the film industry isn't just changing, it's expanding. It's exploding in every direction at once. The very definition of how, where, and by whom movies get made is becoming broader, more complex, and more interesting than ever before. And that leads us to the final and maybe most important question. In an era with fewer gatekeepers, more powerful tools, and more diverse voices than at any point in history, the only real question left for us is this: what stories will we choose to tell?